Hi, this is Jolynn from Wild Pony Eventing, and we're here with Meg Deitner from Massachusetts, and she's a tip trainer. Hi, Meg.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Can you tell us a little bit about your horse background and how you got into Mustangs?
Yeah, so I went to camp when I was 12 years old. It was a just horse camp, and I quickly fell in love, like I feel like everyone did or does. And so that just started the journey. I volunteered for many years before I had my own horse at 16. 4 years ago, I did my first Mustang. I had heard about it on the radio and did an EMM, and I was hooked from then on.
Wow, so that was your first Mustang, a makeover.
Yep. Yes. We didn't make it. It was a very humbling experience. But I was just hooked and had to figure out how to train these guys and what made them tick, I guess.
Okay, great. So what drew you to try Mustangs in the first place?
So I was pretty bored. I was showing the quarter horse circuit and the paint circuit, and I was pretty bored. I was actually about to get out of horses. I had sold my trailer. I had sold most of my horses, just about everything. And then I signed up for the Mustang. I got accepted. So I said, oh, I'll just do this and I'll be done after this. And they just were so different. It was something different. It was a whole different field from the show world. And it was, like I said, such a humbling experience and such a learning experience that it was just so wonderful. It was just a big change.
Yeah. You currently have personal Mustangs?
I do. I have 8 personal Mustangs.
Wow. Can you tell us a little about them?
Yeah. So I have anywhere from my youngest are turning 2 this year. And my oldest is 15. My oldest is Duckwater. He's a famous Mustang, or pretty famous. He won the Texas EMM in 2017, I believe, with his trainer, not with me. And then he unfortunately ended up in a whole bunch of auctions, and he ended up here. He's now one of our main horses for our veteran program where we use Mustangs. And so he's one of our main horses for that. I have Faroki, Rumor, and Kodiak, who are my main Liberty horses. They're my main performance horses. They go everywhere with me, to shows, to demos, to show everybody what the Mustangs are, about. I have a new Mustang, Moolah, who will be joining that team hopefully shortly.
Moolah?
Yes, Moolah. And the others, they're here for now. They were hopefully going to be my Liberty team. They're not fitting that goal, but we are going to try some mounted shooting and stuff this year. So if they fit in there, great. If not, I will, find them homes where they fit in better with whatever discipline they want to do.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about what you do in the Mustang community.
So I mainly take wild Mustangs and I train them and get them, usually more than tip trained. Usually they have tricks and Liberty on them and maybe have been started. And then I adopt them out or, reassign them. So that way a lot of the community can't handle wild horses or they don't have the setup for wild horses. So it helps people get in homes with the wild horses. Yeah. And then, like I said, we have a veteran program. So we have veterans who are also tip training. So those are dual purpose. They're helping Mustangs get into homes, and they're also helping the veterans a ton, kind of adjust their feeling and everything.
Is that a therapy program or are they assisting in the training or both?
Both. So they are assisting in the training. They do work with if they want to, they can work with wild horses. We do have trained ones too. For me, when I started with the Mustangs, it really got me to kind of look inside and, know my feelings and my energies and my everything. And that's why we started that for the veterans. And it's been wonderful.
Yeah. What is the umbrella that you do that work?
So it's Branded Heroes, is the name of it. And that's my 501c3. We opened it 2 years ago. And we're just, giving veterans something to do. And some of them, like I said, they just come and they look at the horses and they don't want any more than that.
Yeah.
And some of them want to experience the wild horses and adjust. I have a Utah horse right now that's pretty wild. and he's been fun for, or she's been fun for a guy here to kind of really help gauge him and his energy, because she's just so sensitive that, you know,
Right.
you really have to watch your energy around them as.
Equine biofeedback.
Yeah. Yep.
So how do veterans get hooked up with your organization and get involved?
So they can find us on brandedheroes.org. We also have Branded Heroes on Facebook. We do a lot of fundraising and stuff, but it's a 100% free program for veterans to come.
Wow.
And they can come whenever they want. We always say to our veterans, I'm a text away. So if you have an issue and you feel like you need, you know, therapy with horses, you just text me and we'll make it work. I don't care if it's the middle of the night or a holiday or what have you.
Okay. So it's a therapy program?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Wow. That's really cool. How many veterans are you currently working with?
Currently only 6. We are hoping to, you know, make that wider this year and open it up. We started the program during COVID, so that kind of slowed everything down, and you know, we're just kind of now really getting into it. So we're gonna hopefully partner with Wounded Warriors here soon and really be able to make it a bigger program.
And geographically, where are you in Massachusetts, just in case there's somebody local?
So we're in Holyoke, so we're right next to the Northampton VA. We're about 12 miles away, I think.
Cool. Okay. Great. Tell us a little bit about your process of gentling the wild ones.
So I like to do a lot of pressure and release, and I'm getting really new into the positive reinforcement. I'm really liking to use positive reinforcement during it. So it's a little bit of pressure and release and positive reinforcement. But as you know, every horse is different. So just because I have an ideal way to do it, that doesn't mean that they're all going to cookie cutter into that.
Right.
So it's kind of just.
I think we have a wide range of people who listen. Can you tell us a little bit about what pressure release means and what positive reinforcement means when you're working with a horse?
Sure. Yeah. So, like say I have a completely wild one in the ring, just me stepping into that ring might be pressure on that horse. So really knowing what is pressure to that horse. Some of them you can be in the round pen and you can be pretty close with them without pressure. The latest one I have, she's from Utah, and the second I walk into that pen, she is bouncing off side to side. So I'm really working on getting her to calm. And as soon as she's like looking at me, I'm going to turn and walk away and release that pressure. So I'm going to kind of give her that bubble she wants and make that bubble bigger. And as for positive reinforcement, that's using food motivation for them, clicker training. So I have one Mustang Mulat, actually the one he did really well with positive reinforcement. He was very food motivated. So although he was very scared of things, when I could mark the behavior and give him a treat for it, it all of a sudden was not scary for him. So for the positive reinforcement, we clicker train. So we'll click and then treat. And we'll do that for just about anything that we can shape into the behavior we want. Because obviously when they're wild, we're not able to just ask for a command. We're really having to shape it.
Right. So first you're training them a click means a treat.
Yep.
And then you click.
And so
for the behaviors.
For a wild one, to teach them the click means a treat, a lot of times I'm going to put them in a small pen, and I'm going to be on the outside of a pen with a bucket on the ground, and I'm just going to click and throw whatever they're going to eat. Sometimes it's just straight alfalfa, sometimes it's alfalfa cubes, sometimes they like grain. It's always mix and match with the Mustangs. Some of them love grain from the start, and some of them take a while to adjust to grain. So whatever they like, I'll stand outside their pen and click and just throw it in, and I'll back up about 15 feet so that they feel comfortable going up and eating out of that bucket or what have you. The goal is eventually to get them to eat out of my hand. And hopefully that happens quickly, but you just never know.
Yeah. So tell us some of the behaviors you can shape with a clicker training.
So clicker training can work for a lot of things. I really love it for haltering them, teaching them to halter the first time. So I can teach them to target the halter. And what I mean by that is I'll hold a halter up. And as soon as they show interest, I will click and treat. And I'll get them to where they're touching the halter a lot and they're clicking and treating. And before you know it, they're putting their nose through the noseband of the halter. And I'm slowly just working my way up where they're putting their nose in. And then I'm able to go over their pole and I, can fake tie it and click and treat. And it really just makes that something that used to be very traumatic in past ways that I trained Mustangs to just a very, very positive experience for them. And I actually am finding I've started clicker training and targeting the halter for the last 2 years. And once they get it, I can walk in and halter any horse versus before, when we were using other methods, whether it be we were roping them first or what have you to get a halter on them, you couldn't trust that you could go in and halter them again. It was kind of like that halter's on and it's going to stay on them. But when you work through this process, I know that I can take the halter off and tomorrow I can do it again. And hopefully, ideally, in half the time that it took today. And before you know it, they're haltering no problem.
Right. So what other methods might you use other than clicker, or are you exclusively doing haltering with the clicker training?
I'm pretty much exclusively now doing haltering with the clicker training. My first Mustang, she was a 10-year-old from Nevada. She was really hard and I had someone come help me and they had roped her and dallied her off on a horse and kind of went up and haltered her. And it got the job done, but now knowing what I know now, I'd never go that route. I unfortunately
got the halter on once.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know much at that time. Like I said, it was a humbling experience. And now knowing what I know now, I don't think the horse would have been nearly as challenging as she was for me. But yeah, so pretty much always teaching the target and the clicker training for halters now. It works so well and it's so positive for them. Yeah.
What other kinds of things are you using clicker training for specifically, kind of like the haltering?
Saddling, leading, I'll use it for when I'm teaching pedestal training. So when I'm teaching them to put 4 feet on a block, or mark training, it's the same concept. I want them to stand on a mark and stay there. Pretty much anything you can blanketing, anything new that I'm introducing to them, I'm usually clicker training and using positive reinforcement. Once the animal knows what is expected, I no longer clicker train or positive reinforce for that. But everything new, I'm pretty much doing it. First rides, everything.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how you use clicker train for first ride.
So I will teach them the come get me trick to the mounting block. So I'll have them where they'll side pass to me. I'll clicker train there. I will stand in a stirrup. I'll clicker train. I will lean over them. I'll clicker. I will sit on them again, click, treat, and just do it a bunch. And then my first steps with them is usually back up because I'm usually doing a bridleless start on them. So it's back and it's the same thing. As soon as they back, I'll click and treat. By the time I'm getting on them, my horses know so much that when they hear the click, whether they're panicking or worried or not, everything stops because they've realized that they did the right thing and they've kind of, so even if I hit an emergency, I can pretty much use that click. And although it might not be for the right reason, it's going to save me because my horses pretty much know, oh, that means a treat coming and, let me come around and look for it.
Right. So you're breaking a big complex thing down into tiny little parts and reinforcing each part.
Yep. I think with the Mustangs and being on a timeline, you have to. I think with the domestic horses or even my Mustang babies, I wouldn't necessarily have to because they've grown up so much and we've slowed everything down and we've done it on a normal process. But when we're speeding things up so much, I really think it needs to be broken down in such little pieces that everything's understandable because everything to them is scary, and just one little change can change everything.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about timelines because there's makeover timelines and then there's other timelines. How do you work that through?
Makeover timelines, we're obviously on a timeline. We don't have an option. That being said, I never put my horses on a timeline. For me, if I don't make a makeover, I don't make a makeover. It's not the end of the world. But I definitely am a little more stressed out when I'm on a timeline, and my makeover horses usually will get about 6 to 8 sessions a day, where I'm doing short sessions and lots of breaks. Whereas when I don't have a makeover horse, I don't really have a timeline for myself. I'm kind of going with the horse and whatever the horse wants to give me. I've had some Mustangs that once they're haltering and leading, throwing them out in the field and just bringing them in and out every day and feeding them for 2 months has been the best thing ever, to just let them be a horse. I've had other Mustangs that if I did that, they would be feral again in 30 minutes and we'd never catch them again. So I think it really depends on the horse. But typically when I'm starting a wild horse, I'm doing 3 to 4 sessions a day, no matter if it's a makeover horse or not. My makeover horses, like I said, they do get a bit more because we are on that timeline. Right. But I try not to put a tight timeline on anything unless it's realistic. I have one now that I'm breaking, and I have the goal that I'm walk trot cantering him by March, but he's ready for that. So I will make timelines for myself, and I make weekly timelines and monthly, I guess, goals more than timelines. If I don't make them, it's not the end of the world, but I do try every week to break down what Mustang's working on what and what they need to push their envelope on and work on.
Right. What kind of time session do you typically do with a wild one? Like, are you talking 10 minutes, 20 minutes?
I guess it really depends on what I'm working on and where they're at. Usually, I would say 20 to 25 minutes is my session, and then I'm going to give them a break. I might go clean 3 stalls and go back, or I might ride a different horse and go back. And I've found that the smaller, more frequent sessions make better progress than the longer, one session a day. So it really depends. I'm always trying to end on a good note and end maybe a little bit further if I can. So, sometimes I could be like, oh, I'm going to go down for 5 minutes and I'm down there for 30 because it's just what it is.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your makeover experiences.
So I've loved the makeovers. I love the tip challenges. I like the tip challenges a lot more. I think the extreme makeovers for me is a tight timeline to get them riding and walk canter and all that. But I think the tip programs and challenges are wonderful because you can really, really get a horse set up in those 120 days. And then whether they're being adopted out or coming home, breaking them is like no big deal. We've gotten them so well trained that they're just ready for that. So I really do like the tip challenges. I hope to do an EMM again not shortly, but eventually. But I need a few less horses so that I can really focus on that because it's a tight timeline, or for me at least, it's a tight timeline.
How many makeovers have you done?
2. And then I've done 9 tip challenges, I think, maybe 10.
Okay. And the makeover is also 3 months?
Yes. Yep. It ranges from 100 to 120 days, depending on when they allow pickup and stuff.
So those makeover challenges are giving you an untouched horse day 1, and then they're supposed to be under saddle doing some pretty impressive things under saddle.
Yes, which I have not. I've not been so good at. I've gotten them broken stuff, but I'm definitely not up in the top with the riding Mustangs in 120 days. I don't like. My first Mustang was a big learning experience, just based off of my knowledge, but then also I skipped a lot of steps trying to be on this timeline and to rush and to hit things. And after we didn't make it to the makeover, I had to really go back and fix a lot. So now I'm very careful to not leave holes, and the makeovers are scary because they're auctioned off at the end. So if you leave holes, you might know that hole, but the person who buys that horse doesn't know that hole. And I really, really try and set my Mustangs up for the best success that I can in the future. It always happens with horses. You can't guarantee they're going to the best home possible, but we like to try. Yeah.
Did you compete in your second makeover?
Yes. And she was a very great horse. She was walk trotting. She was not cantering. She was a good mare.
Okay. And what trouble did you have in your first one that you decided not to go?
She was not riding. She was barely handleable, honestly, by the end of the 100 days. Like I said, she took a while to get our hands onto, and I had someone come and help, and they roped her and helped me get a halter on her and get her leading and stuff. But she was very reactive, very just explosive.
No clicker training with that girl.
No, I had just come from the quarter horse world, and that was, I mean, treats were not even a thing in the quarter horse world, let alone
really
clicker training. So yeah, no, I didn't know half of, like, I say she's probably my hardest Mustang, but I think if I knew now then she would not be my hardest Mustang that I've had to date, you know.
Where is she now?
She's in New Jersey. She belongs to another veteran program. I think it's called Unbridled. I honestly don't know. Unbridled something. But they run a veteran program, and she's just like a pasture pet for them, you know, and a ground therapy horse.
Okay.
She was riding when she went to them, but I do not believe that they've successfully been able to ride her.
Okay. But she's not terribly reactive on the ground anymore.
I don't think so. I haven't really been in touch with them much in the last year, but no, I'm pretty sure they're able to handle her and everything.
Okay. So you think she was your toughest Mustang?
One of, I would say 3 stand out to me, her. And like I said, I'm not sure if she would be the toughest if I knew now or knew what I know now. I had a Sulphur Mustang from Utah. She was extremely reactive. And I dumped a lot of resources into her. I did a lot of Wileen Wilson clinics with her. You know, I had Hannah Catalino down quite a few times to work with her. And she left, and she was rideable and leadable and stuff, but she was unpredictable. You know, she would have good days and bad days, and she was not a horse that I was comfortable riding. I did not sell her as a riding horse for that reason, because she'd be riding along great and then just out of nowhere explode. So she was definitely one of my more difficult. And then most recently I had a Devil's Garden mare here. She was an older mare too, 10-year-old, and she was very, very flighty. And she was here almost a year before I was able to touch her. Yeah. So all for different reasons, but
reactivity definitely seems to be the bottom line in the difficult ones.
Yes, yeah, very reactive.
Okay. What have you found in the experience that you've got? What gets through to those really reactive Mustangs?
I think it's just time and patience, and really having good timing and being able to release. So the Devil's Garden mare, I think, would have come through if she wanted to engage. She was very just in her bubble. She really wanted no part of humans. She, you know, we were a food source for her, and that was about it. Even when she started coming through, she was haltering and leading, and we were brushing her and stuff. She didn't want to be part of, you know, what we were doing. She was just kind of like, oh, well, this is what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to stand here. She wasn't very personable. The mare that I have now from Utah is very reactive, but she is also curious. So she wants to be part of it. She's just really scared. So I like to do the pressure and release and really just give them the time that they need. I know some people with the reactive ones really want to get their hands on them as fast as they can. It's not my method, but to each their own.
Then you risk them exploding if you take that route. So I have one that's highly reactive and is not a riding horse, and I've had her almost 20 years.
Wow.
And she's one of those mares that you try something, and then one day she just walks up to you and says, okay, I'm ready to do that now.
Yeah. Yep.
It all has to be her decision and on her terms.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a mare thing in general, but it is funny. My three most difficult horses are all mares. So I do think that's funny too that they are, and mares are my favorite. I would rather a mare over a gelding any day.
Yeah.
So it is kind of funny.
Yeah. What about easy ones? Have you had any what people call cheater Mustangs?
So the babies, I think the babies are all
Yeah.
cheater Mustangs, you know. So I've had two that were under, I would say 7 months old, and they were super easy. That being said, Faroki, my big mare, she's from Little Wahi. She was probably 7 months old, and she was this little scraggly thing, but man, was she wild. I mean, she got loose on, she's the only Mustang who's ever gotten loose on me. And she just, you know, you thought she was little, you thought you could hold on to her, and she was just feisty. So some of the babies can give you a run for your money.
Yeah.
But most of the babies, and then I've had one that stands out, Theo. He was an Antelope Valley horse, and I mean, he for everything had one explosion, but that was it. Like when I haltered him, he reared, and he was kind of like, "Oh, this is on my face," but that was it. And when I put a lead rope and I put pressure, he reared once, and then he was like, "Oh," and just like everything had one explosion, and then it was just like, and it wasn't even an explosion, it was just like a reaction.
Right.
And then he was just like, "Oh, okay, I guess we're gonna do this." So he was pretty easy.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the Liberty work that you do.
Yeah, so I got into Liberty because of the Mustangs. Actually, that first Mustang I had, because I had to kind of gauge being in her bubble and reading her energy and stuff. And then my second Mustang, Faroki, the little one that I was just talking about, that was feisty. She was my first real like get into Liberty and figure this out. But it was kind of fun. It was something cool to work on towards her freestyle for her makeover. And then I was just hooked to it. Now I start all Mustangs at Liberty. So I usually will have them backing and side passing and maybe even doing circles before I even put a halter on them. I found with the Liberty work that I'm focused on something else and they're focused on something else, and I can slowly creep in their bubbles without them even realizing I'm in their bubble. So my Utah horse right now, who's super reactive, that's what I've been doing, is playing this cat and mouse game, as I call it, and working on Liberty work. And before I know it, I'm right next to her, and she's not even thinking about the fact that I'm next to her. She's thinking about what I'm asking her to do and where I'm asking her body to go, which is really cool. It's been really cool experience.
Can you describe a little bit what starting a wild horse in Liberty work looks like?
Yeah, so it's a lot of the cat and mouse in the beginning, like I said. So I'll go in and I'm going to walk towards them, and as soon as I catch their eye, I'm going to release and walk away. And before you know it, you have the horses who are kind of following you around. They're moving, they're, you know, coming towards you. They might not be coming all the way towards you, but they're starting to walk, and we're starting to be able to move them. And then I can start putting energy to their hind and really just working on their hinds. The shoulders take a little bit longer for me. I need to be more in their bubble for that. But I can really start getting them kind of leading and following me around, using that cat and mouse draw and that hind quarter yield to really start getting them to move around in the way I need to. And then once I can get close enough to them, I'll start rubbing them with my whips if they'll allow me to, which is just an extension of my arm. But it allows me to have that 5-foot space between me and them, which just makes them feel more comfortable. And obviously, if they'll allow me, I'll move up those whips quickly. But if they don't, as long as I can get within those whips and keep them between my whips, I can kind of guide them where I want to. So before I can really start working on stuff, I have to get them where they're willing to let me pet them with those whips and keep them in that short distance.
Okay. Where does clicker training come in with that early Liberty work?
So I don't necessarily use the clicker training with the early Liberty work.
Okay.
I use clicker training when I get into the more advanced Liberty work. But for the basic stuff, I like to know that they really know it and they understand it and they're not just looking for a treat. And that's mainly for future for my performance horses, not so much starting them. So it's more of something for future for me. versus starting them. So I don't really use clicker training in the beginning stuff. I want to make sure that my horses understand a hind quarter yield, a side pass, a shoulder yield, and a back before I'm really adding clicker training to it. So that way I know my body controls where I need it.
Okay. Where does halter training come into that liberty piece? Like, are you waiting to have all of those pieces, or?
It depends on the horse and where and what we're doing with the horse and what we're looking at. So ideally, I'll have them following me at liberty over a bridge and over a tarp and all that before I'm haltering them. If I have a really spooky horse that I feel like I need to get on a halter and take a different approach, then I'll start clicker training the halter and really working on getting the halter on.
Okay. But
so
ideally,
it really just depends.
Ideally, you're looking for a pretty tight bond and a lot of desensitization before you're haltering.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And what are you looking for before you start more advanced liberty work?
So I do want them leading by that point, before I start more advanced, mainly because I want their feet done and, their teeth done and all that before I'm looking for more advanced stuff. And then just to really be sure that they're allowing me in their bubble and I can touch them with my whips. I don't necessarily have to touch them with my hands. Obviously, if I want them leading, then I need to get right up in their face. But I want to make sure that those body controls are there and that I can get them over a tarp and a bridge or, seesaw, whatever I want to work on without having to really put a lot of pressure or ask them to come. So when we first start with like the tarps or the, bridge, they're going to leave a lot and we're going to work on that, draw back and come back and stay between my whips and trust that. So I really want to make sure that they're going over those without me really having to hold their hand and move on forward.
Okay. Are you using clicker training to do some of the tip stuff like picking up feet and trailer training?
Yes. Yep. So I will, when I'm starting to pick up feet, I'll rub down to the knee. If they're fine with it, I'll click, I'll treat. I'll rub down, to the hoof. I'll click, I'll treat. I'll pick the hoof up and I really just want them to like lift it. They don't even have to hold it. And I'm immediately going to click and treat. And then I'm slowly just going to continue the duration of, they'll allow me to hold it longer. They'll allow me to put it between my legs. They'll allow me to put it forward and click and treat. Same thing with a trailer. I'll bring them up. If they sniff the ramp, I'll click and treat. If they bring their feet on, I'll click and treat. I teach all Mustangs to do the pedestal. So it's a block and they put 4 feet on. Once they know the pedestal, just about every horse will walk on a trailer without even thinking about it. We've broken down the trailer on the pedestal and it's a much smaller space. So I really have not ever had an issue with a Mustang loading a trailer.
Okay. So you think it's just stepping up onto an object that they're learning to do that transfers to trailer?
Yeah. So when I teach the pedestal, I'm very picky about what foot I want, and I'll ask for different feet and different, obviously in the beginning, I'll just look for whatever 4 feet they want to give me and teach them that 4 feet can go on and they can step up and stand and not have to walk over. A lot of them want to walk over, but then I will start getting picky and I'll say like left front, right front, left hind, right hind. And I'll get really picky. So by then I really can go up to the trailer and just say, step up and, kind of just walk them through it if they need it. But I think by the time I get to trailering, I've done so much that, like I said, I've never had a bad experience or care about trailering.
Okay. Can you pick one liberty trick and describe for everybody how you break it into parts and train that trick?
Sure. Let's see. So do you want a trick or you want like a liberty maneuver?
You pick.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll do the bow, which is a trick.
Okay.
Just because I was just doing it. So for the bow, I would tap their front left leg with a dressage whip. And as soon as they pick up their foot, I would click and treat. And I want to get them to the point that they are picking their foot up and they're holding it back. So that might, for some horses, that'll take 2 minutes. For some horses, it'll take 3 days. You know, it really depends. So I want to tap their leg every time they pick up. I'm going to reward. And then as they're starting to get where they're picking up, that's when I'm going to start getting pickier and want them to hold it. So what I would do is if they went to put it down, I would just tap their leg again and kind of, you know, reiterate, pick it up and reward. So once they're doing that well, I will take a large carrot and go between their front legs and tap their leg so they pick it up. I'll then hold it for them so that they don't have to hold it. And I'll draw back and get them to draw back. When you're doing the drawback, you really have to take your time. Some horses are confident rocking back and they'll stay in that rock back. Some you have to really break that rock back down and reward. So if I had a horse that didn't want to rock back, just bringing their head between their legs, I would click and treat. And I slowly just want to start inching back. And before you know it, once they're going down into the bow for that carrot and you're tapping and picking their foot up, before you know it, you're just tapping their leg and they're going right down because they know the rewards down there.
Okay.
And once they've got that, then we start getting where we're not giving them the reward down there and they're staying down. So if they wanted to get up, we would then just tap them, you know, tap their leg to remind them, hey, stay down. Yeah. And kind of spread that duration, you know, obviously realistically, if they've just learned the bow tomorrow, we're not going to say stay in the bow for 3 minutes. We're going to slowly increase that.
Have you ever encountered a horse who's just not food motivated and you need to alter things a little bit?
I don't think so. So some horses do really like scratches, and if they like scratches, I'll, you know, scratch them instead of a treat, or I'll mix it up. And even my Liberty horse, she loves food, but sometimes I'll just scratch her. If it was like an okay job, I'll scratch her, you know, and show her it was okay. But I don't think I've had one that hasn't liked food. I will get creative though, like if they don't like grain yet or treats, I'll use alfalfa, like straight alfalfa, and I'll just have a little bag on my hip. I do try and get Mustangs on grain as soon as they come in, whether it be just alfalfa pellets or if they need some weight and they're getting a little more. I do try and get them eating that because you just never know where they're going to go. And a lot of people don't understand the Mustangs and they don't understand the process it takes. And I don't want a Mustang to go somewhere and then them be like, oh, we only feed 2 flakes of hay and it needs grain. And then the horse doesn't know how to eat grain. So.
Right. Okay. What are your future plans for your business and what are your hopes and goals?
So we're hoping to get Branded Heroes, you know, a lot bigger, and help more veterans. I'm hoping to do some more performances this year with my Mustangs, at Liberty and really get them out and about and show people what these Mustangs can do. There's still a large stigma in our part of the area where Mustangs, you know, aren't skilled or, you know, they're wild animals and they're useless and all of that. So I really just want to advocate for these Mustangs and get them out. I have 3 Mustangs that are in training that I'm hoping to do some mounted shooting with this year. So that'll be new for me and for them. Really just kind of show the versatility of these horses. So we'll be going to Equine Affair in Ohio with them. We'll be doing the Liberty show there.
That's in April.
Maybe in November. We'll be at the PA Horse Expo in March. And Rumor, my personal Liberty horse, will be coming with me and doing some demos there. I just try and get them out and about as much as possible and show people how awesome these horses can be.
Are there Liberty competitions that you go to outside of makeovers, or is it more demos?
Yep. So the ILHA, International Liberty Horse Association, runs shows. So we just did Equine Affair in November in Springfield, which is about 15 minutes from here. And then we've gone to their World Show in Kentucky. And we'll be going to their Ohio show. We'll probably be going to Kentucky again this fall. I believe that's October. And then hopefully we'll be doing Springfield Equine Fair again this fall, but it hasn't been released yet on whether that show will be there again. So yeah, we do shows. We do performances at rodeos for like half times. We'll do 4-H shows and stuff for half times. I do a lot of where I'll bring them for a kids camp or something, and the kids get to play with the Mustangs and do the tricks and Liberty and all that fun stuff. But yeah.
Cool. Okay. First time adopters, what advice do you have for them?
I think it's great to always have someone in your area who knows Mustangs and who you can reach out to if you run into a problem. Definitely follow, the application. The rules are there for a reason. So definitely follow those rules and make sure that, you're following all the rules. Have someone that you can reach out to, and just, keep trying, keep looking for answers. If you're stuck, don't think you're alone on this. We've all been stuck with a Mustang. We've all had issues. And there's so many people in the Mustang community that are willing to help out. So just reach out to people and, really just go for it. It's a blast.
So if someone is interested in adopting a Mustang and they're local to you, they're somewhere in the Massachusetts area, how would they go about getting connected with you if they want a tip trainer to gentle their horse?
So Branded Horsemanship is my page for training Mustangs and all of that. So we actually have a couple on there for sale now that are beyond tip trained, but there is a New Hampshire event coming up. So we can pick up tip Mustangs there and work with adopters if they want them. I do have 2 coming from that event. I know for training, ideally if they win off the internet adoption. So it is kind of first come, first serve. There's only so many stalls and so much time in a day. But they can reach out there, and the New Hampshire event is the best for us to get tipped horses because it's close, so we're not paying an arm and a leg shipping them.
And when is that?
That is April 15th to the 17th, I believe. Don't quote me on that date, but it's mid-April.
Okay. And so what kind of arrangements do they need to make if they're going to adopt a Mustang, but they want it to go directly to you, for example, rather than go to their home, and they don't want to have to do the 6-foot panels and all of that?
Yep. So they just got to reach out to me. And I have plenty of shippers who ship wild horses, and I will probably be at that event too. And we can schedule shipping, we can schedule a stall. And the biggest thing is making sure that we have room here. We only have so many pens that are 6-foot pens. And again, like I said, just so much time, and the wild horses take a lot of time. So
yeah, they do. Tell us your deepest, darkest desires about Mustangs. Are you looking for a specific one?
So I have been pretty lucky, and I have found my specific. So Moolah is a Palomino Appaloosa, which was my go-to one. And then I have always wanted a Blue Roan Pinto, and the Utah horse I have right now is a Blue Roan Pinto. So I have kind of checked off my boxes. Now give me time, and I'm sure I will come up with a new standard for what I want. The Blue Roan just came in a week ago, so it's still processing in my head that I've wanted a Blue Roan Pinto for as long as I've done quarter horses. And when I started Mustangs, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get a Blue Roan.
Pretty rare.
Yeah, and it's gonna be Pinto. And then I found out very quickly that was not an easy feat. And I have paid a lot of money for some of my Mustangs. So for me, it's just been finding the right one. It's not so much looking for the $25 Mustang. I've paid, I've bid on them on the internet adoption. I've paid for them to be shipped from Oregon. There's nothing that will stand in the way of a Mustang that we want. There probably is a lot of things that should stand in the way, but there isn't. We're pretty Mustang crazy. So as of right now, I have what my goals were, but I'm sure, like I said, I will come up with a new must-have.
Yeah. The Blue Roan Pinto from the Utah corrals or a Utah herd? or both?
Utah herd. She's from Fisco, Utah. I picked her up at the storefront in Tennessee a week ago. She actually was returned. She was adopted out and returned. So she is
Do you know why?
already they weren't able to touch her or handle her or do anything, and she's very reactive. She's been here a week. She's settling in nice. She's getting to the point that I can get it within about 1.5 feet of her, and she's not running. But the moment I go down there, she's bouncing off the panels for the first minute or two before she really settles. So she's
How old
just
is she?
flighty. She's a 5-year-old.
How long was
So-
she with the first adopter? Do you know?
I believe about 6 months. I think she was adopted out originally in August, I believe. July or August. I don't know what event, but it was a summer event. And like I said, we picked her up about a week ago.
Yeah. Did they tell you whether it was
No.
another tip trainer or if it was just a private person?
Just a private person. I did know that. And from what I understand, they don't really have high standards of their, like, they don't push them hard or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really sure whether she'd be a walk in the park or, what she is. And she's definitely flighty and reactive, but she's coming quickly. If you asked me the first day, I would probably say this will be my hardest Mustang, but she is settling down nicely.
Okay. And what do you attribute that to? Are you doing something specific or are you just leaving her alone?
I think just the lots of sessions and letting her realize that we're not here to hurt her. So yesterday I had friends here and they went in and she was right back to like day one. So I think she is starting to get used to me and my body language and, settle down and realize the plan. But she's still got a long way to go before she's going anywhere with me.
Right.
So.
Okay. And is she someone you're training to adopt out, or is she going to be a personal Mustang?
Hopefully a personal. Like I said, I've been looking for Blue Roan Pinto for so long. And the Utah horses are very athletic horses. And my horse groomer, I love her to death, but she's kind of a couch potato. So for the more high advanced stuff, the athletic horses definitely are helpful because they're more motivated and they're a lot more athletic to do these movements that we want.
Okay.
So it takes a little less bribery out of them.
So assuming she's on the same page with you down the line, what will you do with her?
I will do Liberty performances with her. She'll get broke to ride. And she'll do whatever. One thing with me is I don't really have a set path. I'm kind of just this sounds fun, let's do it. So my horses really have to be game to do whatever. So whatever I want to do, she's gonna go along with.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And
very welcome.
I will, in the show notes for listeners, put all of your contact information. So if they want to follow you on social media or contact you about getting a horse or adopting a horse, they can do that.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.